For years, Trump talking about Greenland sounded like a joke, a headline, a distraction. But after Venezuela, no one is laughing anymore. Because if the United States can take Venezuela, the question becomes, what stops it from taking Greenland?
For decades, Americans believed the greatest threat to the Western alliance would come from Moscow or Beijing. But today, Europe is quietly asking a different question. What if the real danger comes from Washington? When President Donald Trump says the United States needs Greenland, not wants, but needs, world leaders are no longer laughing. Because this time, the threat isn't rhetorical, it's strategic, and it's backed by power. This story isn't really about ice, territory, or maps. It's about a global shift in how power is exercised, a shift away from diplomacy and toward dominance, a moment where even allies are no longer guaranteed safety. So why does Trump really want Greenland, and why might Vladimir Putin be watching this unfold with interest? At first glance, Greenland doesn't look like a prize worth fighting over. It's frozen, massive, and sparsely populated, with fewer residents than a small American city. But strategically, Greenland may be one of the most valuable pieces of land on Earth. Sitting between North America and Europe, Greenland is the gateway to the Arctic and the North Atlantic. It controls vital shipping routes, hosts early warning missile defense systems, and anchors surveillance networks that protect the United States from missile threats coming over the pole. As Arctic ice melts, Greenland is becoming more than a frozen island. It is becoming a crossroads of global power. Shipping lanes once blocked by ice are opening. Rare earth minerals critical for weapon systems, electric vehicles, and artificial intelligence are becoming easier to access. Oil and gas reserves long buried beneath ice are now reachable. Whoever controls Greenland gains leverage over trade, military movement, and security across the Northern Hemisphere. Russia understands this. China understands this. And now Trump has made it clear the United States understands it too. During Trump's first term, his interest in Greenland was treated as a joke. Late-night comedians mocked it, European leaders dismissed it. Analysts assumed it was just another shock tactic designed to dominate headlines. Even when Donald Trump Jr. flew to Greenland last year, the visit felt more like political trolling than policy. When Vice President J.D. Vance followed with a brief symbolic stop, most observers still didn't take it seriously. But something has changed. The capture of Venezuela's leader marked a turning point. It proved that Trump's second term would not be limited by the constraints that defined his first. What once seemed unthinkable now looks possible. When the administration refused to rule out military force, even against a NATO ally, the jokes stopped. In European capitals, alarm bells started ringing. The Venezuela operation reshaped global perceptions overnight. U.S. forces captured Nicolás Maduro. Trump publicly celebrated it. He claimed authority over Venezuela's future. He even asserted control over the nation's oil revenue, framing it as a reward for American power. To allies and adversaries alike, the message was unmistakable. This was not containment. This was dominance. If Washington was willing to overthrow a regime in Latin America, critics began asking, what stops it from asserting control elsewhere? Greenland suddenly didn't feel hypothetical anymore. Perhaps the clearest window into this new worldview came not from Trump himself, but from his top advisor, Stephen Miller. Miller openly stated that the world is governed by strength, force, and power, not treaties, not alliances, not international norms. This philosophy isn't new. It's the logic of 19th century empire. It's gunboat diplomacy reborn for the 21st century. And when Miller said that no one would fight the United States over Greenland, he was probably right. But being able to do something doesn't make it wise, and history shows that unchecked power often produces unintended consequences. Greenland isn't just another territory. It belongs to Denmark, a founding member of NATO. Any attempt by the United States to seize or coerce Greenland would trigger an unprecedented crisis inside the world's most powerful military alliance. For 75 years, NATO has survived because of trust, because every member believed that collective defense meant protection from external threats, not internal ones. Danish leaders have warned that using force against Greenland would effectively end NATO as we know it, because what does mutual defense mean when the strongest member becomes the aggressor? For decades, NATO deterred Russia by presenting unity, but unity collapses when trust disappears, and trust is eroding fast. When Maduro was captured, Russia condemned the operation, but Vladimir Putin himself remained largely silent. No fiery speeches, no immediate retaliation, no dramatic threats. That silence may be deliberate, because Trump's actions are handing the Kremlin something it has long sought: moral equivalence. If the United States claims a sphere of influence in the Western Hemisphere, openly threatens territorial expansion, and prioritizes force over sovereignty, then how can Washington credibly oppose Russia doing the same in Ukraine? Trump's posture on Greenland weakens America's moral authority without Putin firing a single shot. It reframes global politics as a contest of raw power, not rules. There is also a deeply personal dimension to all of this. Trump is increasingly focused on legacy. He openly admires presidents who expanded American territory: Thomas Jefferson, who doubled the nation's size with the Louisiana Purchase, and William McKinley, who oversaw the annexation of Hawaii. Trump doesn't just want to be remembered as a disruptor. He wants to be remembered as a builder of empire. Greenland fits that vision perfectly: a historic land acquisition, a permanent imprint on the map. Some officials even speculate that Trump dreams of renaming it. Whether or not that's true, the symbolism matters. European leaders are no longer hedging. France, Germany, the United Kingdom, Italy, Spain, and Poland have publicly declared that Greenland belongs to its people. Canada has dispatched high-level delegations. Denmark has reaffirmed sovereignty. Behind closed doors, European officials are asking whether the United States is still a reliable partner. The uncomfortable truth is this: if the United States truly wanted to take Greenland, no one could physically stop it. Denmark lacks the military capacity. Europe would not go to war with Washington. NATO would fracture before a single shot was fired. That imbalance of power is exactly why this moment is so dangerous, because peace depends not on strength alone, but on restraint, and restraint is no longer guaranteed. The consequences would ripple far beyond Greenland. China would take notes. Russia would adjust its tactics. Allies around the world would rethink their dependence on U.S. protection. If borders become negotiable and force becomes normalized, the post-World War II order begins to collapse. Greenland is not just a test of ambition, it is a test of whether the most powerful country on Earth still believes in limits. The world is watching closely, because what happens next may define the future of global power and the cost of unchecked dominance.